Hey guys, welcome back to the Discipline HQ podcast. I'm here with Matthew Gay of Fit Church United. Matthew, how are you?
I'm doing really good, man.
Good. Okay, so off the bat, do you want to be Matt or Matthew?
I'm Matt. My name is Matthew Gay, but most people just call me Matt or Matt if you're my family and you knew me when I was little.
Nice. Well, we'll go with Matt for now.
Yeah, that's probably good. Yeah.
Nice. And so Matt is the founder of Fit Church, and from that has sprung like all sorts of things. You've got Fit
Yes.
Church the book, Fit Church United as far as your social presence,
Yeah.
and you've got Fit Church or what is
There's a
the
ministry program. There's
yeah,
there's all kinds of things going on. Yeah.
dude, and I'm super stoked to get into this because you're
For
one of
sure.
the few people I found online who has combined the I feel like I see a lot of people trying to do the combination of biblical life and fitness
For sure.
in, a interesting way. And it doesn't always come across very well, to say
Yeah.
the least.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have done it in a great way. And so I'm really interested just to hear how the Lord put it on your heart and the community that you've built with your people. And so we
Yeah.
usually start this with a journey of faith and fitness. So which do you want to talk about first, or which came first, faith or fitness for you?
I think God was working on me in terms of faith way before he was working on me in terms of fitness. Because I grew up in the church. I grew up in an Episcopalian church, actually. So I was an
Oh, same
acolyte.
here.
Yeah, oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
sweet, man. So yeah, white robes, swinging incense, carrying the cross, and the
Hmm.
lighting the torches, and serving the quote unquote father. Um,
Which was your
um,
favorite, to carry the torch or to carry the cross?
I liked carrying the cross. It depended on my mood that day. If I was feeling fiery, then Oh, give me the fire. No, either way,
Right.
man, I felt like it was pretty cool just to be a part of that. Just because I don't know, I felt like I was noticed. It kind of it played into my desire to be known for something. I think, or
Yeah.
to have some sort of role in the whole thing. So yeah. I didn't really have a good relationship with the Lord, though. I mean, it was very formal. It was very just kind of surface level for me. It was really about like the actions in the show. It wasn't necessarily about getting to know Jesus personally and understanding that. And at home, my family was the ones obviously taking me to the Episcopalian church. We weren't really heavy into like discipleship at home and like let's read the
Yeah.
Bible together and pray together and whatnot. My dad struggled with alcohol, and so he was kind of emotionally distant. And my mom did the very best that I believe that she could. But we didn't do a whole lot of discipleship at home. So didn't have a really strong relationship with the Lord growing up. As I turned into a teenager, I obviously, when you don't have strong roots, but you've been around it, you kind of just learn the lingo, and it's almost, I think it's dangerous because now you know how to present yourself in a Christian setting without actually being a
Yeah.
Christian. And so, I left and got into just the wrong crowd, lots of drugs, lots of partying, lots of just self-seeking and, pleasing myself, being a slave to acceptance. And so that definitely got me in a lot of trouble. And then, yeah, later on in my life in 2009, I think a lot of things changed for me. That was a really pivotal period of my life. That year in May, I was in jail for about 10 days because I had gotten a DUI the year previously. And so I served time, which that was crazy because I'm like, man, I really hit rock bottom with this. Like now I'm in jail. Good grief. Like what did I do here?
It's a
Had
very
just
real
moved.
experience.
Dude, yeah. So that year I had moved out of my parents' house. So I had like I hit 18 when at that October that previous year, and I could not wait to get out of my parents' house. So moved out
Mm.
with my girlfriend at the time, and who she's my wife now. But then two months later was in jail. That was in May. Got out of jail. Proposed to her like while I was in jail. Another friend of mine told you wrong crowd. He was in jail at the same time too. So we would talk and whatnot, and I was like, man, I think I want to propose to Katie Lynn, and so I get out of jail, and the 20th, I proposed to her. That was like our dating anniversary. I take her to a place called Captain George's, which is like a really high, like it's a seafood buffet essentially, but it's like a nicer one.
Yeah.
and proposed there. And then July, I'm coming back from a business trip that I was on with a company that I work for, and the van that we're riding in was really crappy. I mean, Corey, it was a terrible van. Like, probably shouldn't have been driven. I don't know if it passed inspection or how it passed inspection, but yeah. Anyways, this thing broke down 3 times in its entirety. The first time it breaks, it kept overheating essentially. So like we'd be
Oh,
driving down the road and then like steam would start coming through the vents into the van. Then it was one of those conversion vans. So it was a pretty big van.
yeah.
Um, so that happened once. We get out, they're pouring water on it. Like, I mean, this is horrible. Like under the hood, they're pouring water under the engine, and like, oh my gosh, it was bad. We cool down, we get on the road, we do it again, and so this third
What?
time
No
it
one wanted to
happened.
stop and get some coolant?
I that you know what? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they did try that. It didn't work. But anyways, that third
Mm,
time we're heading up the Roth Bridge in Delaware, and we're going probably about 20 miles per hour. Everybody's calling their families, trying to figure out, how are we gonna get towed, because we can't keep doing this, and we're
yeah.
breaking down and going uphill. And anyways, we are told to just kind of get up by one of the people's parents, get up over the hill, and roll down the other side, and AAA will meet you on the other side. And before we could get over the bridge, an 18 wheeler plowed into us going about 65 miles per hour, and because the driver had fallen asleep, he essentially didn't take a long enough
Whoa.
rest. He fell asleep, didn't realize we were only going 20 miles per hour, trying to get into the shoulder, but before we could get there, he hit us and pushed us about 200 feet, which killed the girl sitting behind me instantly. Fractured 4 vertebrae in my spinal cord, broke my
Mm,
pelvis almost completely in half, and lacerated my spleen, my liver. It jacked everybody in the van up. One girl's eye socket was broken. They had to pin her arm back like pieces together. It tore us up pretty bad. The entire thing exploded because again, it was a conversion van. So as soon as he hit us, the back gas tank
mm,
erupted and shot flames throughout the entire van, which the driver ended up with 45% of his body being burnt. They had to put him in an induced coma for a week and a half after that. And so I, by God's grace, was able to drag myself out because his seat broke on top of me. So he was laying on top of me, like screaming to the top of his lungs. I couldn't breathe because it knocked the wind out of me, but I dragged myself out of the van, got onto the wall of the bridge, and when I went to go put my leg down, excruciating pain, obviously, because I didn't realize it literally it hit me so hard. What had happened was I was the only one who saw the grill of this truck about to hit us. And so I pulled myself away from my seat trying to get away. It was just like a, I don't know, natural thing.
mm.
So when he hit
Yeah.
us, my seat hit me in the back with the pressure of an 18 wheeler hitting a van.
Yeah.
And it broke the seat off the track. So I dragged myself away from the van, and um, yeah, it was a crazy, crazy, crazy scene that left me with some trauma and a lot of back pain
Yeah.
for years. I couldn't run for more than 3 minutes without pain, and God has healed me entirely. Like, I'm able to run miles and miles now and deadlift and do everything that I want to do. There's no limitation. Even though doctors told my family, like, if I walked again, I would probably have like some sort of limp for the rest of my life, where I wouldn't be able to walk like a normal person again. That's not the case at all. God healed me completely.
Yeah.
And he gave me a second chance at life. I totally believe. And so we're still on the topic of faith here. That's really what I think woke me up, because I guess until that, I guess I knew it in the back of my mind. And I think most people know this, but until that had happened, I didn't really consider that like most people who die don't wake up in the morning expecting to that day. Like, there are some people who
Mm,
kind of just have an inkling, right? Or they're in the hospital for something that is, life taking. But there's a lot of people, man, that wake up and it's just a normal sunny day. It's a beautiful day. No clue whatsoever. And I don't say this to spark fear in anyone's heart. No, but nobody knows anyways, right? Like, nobody knows when God's going to call them home.
yeah.
I think for me, that just kind of woke me up to like, hey, Matt, like, I actually wasn't planning on that. Um, I was
Mm,
the girl that died. Like, you need to probably get serious about this. And the pastor told me one day, after that, after I had healed up and was still kind of on the fence, he said, God didn't save your life for no reason. You need to stop playing with God. And so that's what got me serious about like actually following Jesus. Um,
Yeah.
so from there, I uh, I actually ended up in 2010, which that was the year after, right? I moved out to LA for that same company. The owner, the guy who we moved from Virginia to LA to open up an office out there, that guy decided, I guess he had some sort of scheme plan because the company that we worked for would give you a certain amount of money to go start your office out there. Um,
Hmm.
he took that money and ran, I guess, because we got set up
Oh,
and all of a sudden he disappeared.
what?
Right? I just uprooted my whole. We literally, I spent our like wedding day packing up our apartment. We get married. The next day we fly out to LA with all of, like living out of a duffel bag, and had done that for 2 months. This guy disappears, and so we're like, oh crap. We spent like a month trying to find a job out there, walking up and down Hollywood Boulevard, nothing, and so we came home with our tail between our legs, and
Sounds like a fun dude.
well, because he's amazing, right? Because we actually rushed
Yeah.
to get married because we were like, if we're gonna move to LA with this opportunity, we want to do this. Like all our families here in Virginia, let's go ahead and get this done now. So I mean, we got stuff from Sam's
Yeah.
Club. She found a dress from the thrift store. Like we made it happen. This guy, this guy didn't even. But we don't. You know what I mean? Like I'm glad it all happened the way that it did. I wouldn't take a single thing back. That's all blessing. She still has the dress. But
I love
we
that.
we moved back here, man, and so I found a job at a Bally Total Fitness, man, and I knew sales, and at that point, I wasn't healthy at all. I had never been in fitness. Um, I played soccer for like a year or two, like as a kid, like neighborhood league. But other than that, I was not a healthy kid at all. I had a horrible relationship with food, overate food way too much. I saw that kind of as like that same like, ooh, that boy can eat. So I'd make it a point to eat like large amount. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I could eat.
Yeah.
You know. So
Hmm.
I was a chubby kid growing up, not athletic at all. But here I am. I've gotten into the season of drugs and partying and whatnot. I've lost weight because of that, obviously. But I'm still like now I'm skinny fat. And
Hmm.
so I go to this Bally Total Fitness. My back hurts. I smoke a half a pack of cigarettes a day. I'm probably eating fast food about 2 or 3 times a week. In some weeks, a day. I'm
Yeah.
eating fast food all the time. I would say at least once a day. Um, and so I'm a hypocrite completely because I'm giving people tours of this gym and I'm not healthy at all. And I'm like, yeah, let's get you started a healthy lifestyle. But I'll tell you, man, like I got sick of being around guys that made me feel even more insecure than I already did. Right? Like if I'm being honest, I was already a very insecure guy. My father, again, we didn't have a strong relationship, so he didn't really instill much in me. I'm raised by my mom. She was raised in fear, so I didn't have a whole lot of like confidence,
Hmm.
courage. Like I got this. So I've seen all these healthy people all the time, and I feel like crap. And so I started dabbling. I'm there, I'm around it. Might as well dabble. And after a few years, I started to my body had completely transformed. And in 2013, that's when I started. Like I went and got certified, and that's when I started coaching people. After that's another story where we started a business, lost it. I got money from that car accident. We opened up a performing arts school. That's how my wife and I met. I studied opera. She studied ballet. And so we started up a performing arts school, and after a while, that flopped. We didn't have we got
Hmm.
like rammed with this huge expense in building out this school, and we weren't prepared for it, so we had to close it down.
Hmm.
I left that, and I was like, I need to help. I need to help people some way. By then, my faith was a lot stronger, and now I was also into fitness. I'm like, I got to serve God some way. I can't just go do whatever. And so I asked the manager at the One Life that I was working out at that time. Again, this is a couple years later. Um, how do you become a personal trainer? And he's like, well, you got to get certified. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, there's ACSM, there's NASM, there's this and that. So I picked NASM and got certified and started training people. And that's how I got into fitness. So I can pause there. But essentially,
Yeah.
my faith into fitness journey, that's really how that panned out.
Man, that is incredible. And first of all, the fact that you survived that car crash, because like usually you hear
For
people
sure.
say, "I got in a car crash," and like rear-ended by a semi. You're thinking, "Oh, well, like the back of your car was probably smashed, but you're okay."
His grill
But
came
like,
in the van. Yeah.
God, I cannot imagine like the terror in that moment.
Hmm.
And it's like the you said like it was a conjoint or whatever it was, like a I forget the word you used, but like the gas can was in the back, and
Oh, the
so like
conversion
literally,
van.
yes, yes,
Yeah. That was the dangerous part. Is like
mm,
when he, because the conversion van, all that means is that there's a gas tank in the front and a gas tank in the back. So when one runs out, you can
yeah,
flip the switch and it converts and uses the other gas tank. So you have a reserve.
yeah.
So when he hit us, yeah, it hit that one and then set everything on fire. And the guys are, it's crazy. Two other 18 wheelers pulled over because I'm sitting, after I pulled myself away from the van, I sat down. I could only get like maybe 10 yards. I was in excruciating
Yeah.
pain. I couldn't breathe. And they're like, you got to get away from this thing. It's going to blow. They know because 18 wheelers typically have their gas tanks on the sides right under this door. And the flames of this van are
Ooh.
not very far from that. And at some point, it's going to heat up enough to where those things are going to blow. And eventually they did. But by
Oh
that
wow.
point, I was like, I can't, I'm trying to tell them that I can't walk, but I still can't breathe. So they pick me up and they drag me over. They carry me over to one of their 18 wheelers and like they hoist me up and put me up into the seat of the passenger seat of one of their 18 wheelers. And my wife calls because I was supposed to call her at that time. I'll never forget. She calls me and she's like, hey, you were supposed to call me. You all right? And I'm like, they're dying.
Nope.
I'm like, they're dying. All I said
Mm,
was they're dying. And she's like, what are you
mm,
talking about? I was like, they're gonna die. Because I'm freaking out because Ashley's still in the van and the driver is still in the van. But I know this thing's
mm.
on fire, right? So I got out, the girl Caitlin in the front got out, the guy that was next to me, he was asleep. So only thing that happened to him was whiplash. So he was able to actually open the door because there was no door on my side. So if something had happened to him, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. But by God's
Wow.
grace, he just ended up. He was asleep. He was a big guy. I guess he got up. He ran out of the van, and I dragged myself and got out. So I'm thinking, man, Patrick, or Tim and the girl Ashley are still in there. I told her that, and sure enough, Tim got out, but Ashley didn't. But anyways, yeah. So when that
Mm,
happened, the entire thing exploded. So it was, yeah,
yeah.
it was epic.
That is insane. And so you said, so your faith was established at this point, and you had talked to a pastor. So, like, what were those conversations like? Like, what were you working through with your pastor through after all that?
Yeah, so I was going to a church and this was not the Episcopalian church that I had grown up in. Now it was, I guess, more of a non-denominational thing. They were family friends, or I guess family cousins, like twice removed or something like that. But anyways, talking to him, I really was more reserved about what was going on outside of church settings. I was going to church at that point and then like going and rolling up London. Like I was still very much so on the fence about certain things. But I was seeking and, I knew I needed church. I knew I needed more of God. Because of this whole situation, I was like, I need to start, but I hadn't totally tossed everything off and, stepped both feet into following Christ. And essentially, what happened to me with the situation that caused me to turn the conversation was I walked into church one day. This was after I'd healed up, gotten out of the wheelchair. I was walking on my own 2 feet by now. And the moment I stepped into the church, a splitting headache. And I don't get headaches, but I mean, my head was hurting so bad. And so I sat down, I'm listening to the service, and it comes time to where at this church he was doing he did an altar call, and he was like, if you, yeah, he didn't always do it, but at the end of the service, he was calling people up. And so he did the altar call. I get up and I'm like, I feel like I need to go. And as I get up, I'm starting to cry. I'm already weeping by this point. I'm crying. And as I'm crying, the head's getting worse. So I walk up to him and I'm thinking he's just going to pray for me. And he kind of just stares at me and he leans in and he says, you need to stop playing with God. That's all he says. He says, God didn't save your life for no reason. You need to stop playing with God. And I think for some reason that terrified me because I'd never considered that I was playing with God. I had been in church my whole life. I had seen him do things in other people's lives. I had seen a whole religion shaped around following Jesus, but I had never considered that I could do something like play with God. I think at that point, I mean, just because of going to church, I think I did have a fear of God. I just didn't have a relationship with him. I prayed when I needed things. I knew that he was creator and over all things, and that he could cast you into hell or bring you to heaven. But I didn't know him. So that really made me say, oh crap, like I need to, yeah, I guess I do need to stop playing with God. So that was the conversation that I had with him. And from there, it was more Bible reading and more considering what God wanted to do in my life. And I'll never forget, I was, again, smoking a lot of weed at that time. And I asked him one service after that had happened, I said, if you want me to stop doing this, help me to know, like, help me with that. And so weeks after this, I find this cat, and this is around the time that I'm working at that Bally Total Fitness, and I'm outside, and I was actually on a smoke break, like, cigarette smoke break, and there's this cat, and so I take this cat home to my wife. We had already had another cat, and after a couple of weeks, I realized I'm breaking out when I get home from work. Well, we get rid of the cat because of that. Still happening, right? A couple more weeks go by. I'm still breaking out when I get, I mean like very bad hives all up my arm, up into my neck, my face, my jawline. Like I'm talking like big, like there was a time I looked like Freddy Krueger. Like it was horrible, red and white and big and like what the heck. And then after a while, I'd put cold water. I would do whatever I could, Benadryl, and eventually they would go away. Well, I realized after about a month of this that when I was getting home, I would break up the weed, right, to roll or whatever I was going to do.
Yeah.
And so one day I tested it up and I was breaking it up and I went and touched my arm. And immediately after, I start breaking up in hives. And I'm like,
Oh.
wait, turns out I became allergic to the crystals or
Whoa.
whatever it was in the weed. And then I remembered, you asked me to help you if I wanted you to stop this. It made me
Mm.
allergic. I've been smoking this stuff
Golly,
for years.
that's pretty effective.
It's very effective. So it was like a clear, like, my flesh was like, gosh darn it, like I don't. But my spirit was like, I've been telling you this all along, bro. Like you already knew the answer, but here's your sign, man. So yeah, God doing things like that really just it was like I can't argue with you, man. Like, all right, let's do this.
Love that submission to, because I'm sure whenever you prayed, it was not just a prayer of like, "Hey God, I need you to show yourself if you're real," but it seems like it was more of a heartfelt like, "I'm desperate to see. Like, if you're there, I need you to show me," and like a way that is not unclear at all. And so I love that those prayers that happen and then
Yeah.
hearing God like actually do it and the ability to not just look past it and say like, oh, well, I just became allergic to weed because, some people develop allergies and that's it. I guess I'll
Yeah.
move on to something else. But like the acknowledgement to say like, okay, this is obviously from the Lord.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've told that to some people, and they're like, science. I'm like, shut up. I don't want to hear that mess because, like, it
Yeah.
was just too close in proximity to me praying that. And then, like when a thought comes to your mind, um, of something that you've done and the timing of things, and it was just like, wow, like it was just revelation. Yeah, this is me. This
Yeah.
is me answering what you asked for. So
And I
yeah.
love those comments of like whenever people say, "Oh, it was just science. Like this was just naturally explainable." I'm like,
Or
yeah, that is
coincidence.
naturally, yeah. Like obviously, it is like a scientific or natural phenomenon for allergies to happen. But
Of course.
like I said, the timing of it all, and then the acknowledgement that if you are a believer, there's this whole omniscient thing where God is over everything,
Yep.
and so His ability to affect science for His glory is kind of the
Amen.
whole name of the game.
Amen.
And so, anyway, but I love that. And so, working at Bally's Fitness while smoking and being overweight, like as a salesperson, how you said it was like, a little bit of friction between how you were living and what you were selling. And
Yeah.
so, when you made
Hypocrisy.
that transition, yes, exactly. I mean, there's a better way to say it. But so, how did that transition come from just like that incongruity or hypocrisy you were feeling? Or was it like a desire to get fit yourself?
Um, yeah, I mean, it came from that. It did come from eventually. It came from a desire to be confident, to be like these guys that I was seeing. Man, they just, I don't know, like they seemed so sure of themselves, and I had never felt that before. I wanted confidence. I wanted to feel proud of my body. And yeah, I think just your environment really affects what standards you set for yourself or what you accept for yourself, and what you believe is possible. And so for me, God had placed me now in a new atmosphere, a new environment. Before I was
Hmm.
around church people. Church people aren't necessarily the healthiest community, right? There are some healthy
Yeah.
people in the church community, obviously, but like I won't even say church people. I'll just say Americans. Like most
Yeah. Yeah.
Americans are not healthy, and the church just in America tends to be a byproduct of the culture of America. We've kind of conformed to the patterns of the world in that way, right?
Hmm.
American culture is in
Hmm.
American church culture. So, but you're really around those folks, and so yeah, I didn't see that a lot there, and I didn't see that a lot from my family. And in terms of living a healthy lifestyle, my friends, I didn't choose super fit friends because I wasn't into that either. So this was a brand new atmosphere for me, and I think through being in a new atmosphere day in and day out, talking the talk, even without walking the walk, being around people who have this desire, being around those people who know what they're doing, being around folks that are kind of pointing out the fact that your shirt's fitting a little tight in the wrong areas, uh, and that your arms are your biceps are the size of their wrists. Um, that'll get under your skin. I think so. I think there was some vanity there. There was some insecurity there. There was, I think, honestly, a part of it was obviously just a healthy desire. Like I want to feel strong. I want to feel good. I'm tired of being in pain all the time. My back was hurting a lot. So yeah, it was a mixture of things for sure. But it made it to where for me, and I think this is critical if anyone is going to truly transform their life for the better in terms of following Jesus. Well, in terms of health, Jesus does a lot of the work in terms of like following him,
Yeah.
but in terms of like living a healthy lifestyle, more specifically, you have to reach a point where it's now a must. It's not just an option or a wish or a want. And I think for me, those things made it to where I was like, no, I can't. I'm not accepting anything else. Like, there's no plan
Hmm.
B. I'm getting fit.
Yeah. I love it. And so is it like you, it sounds like it was an all in type situation. Like,
Yeah.
this was, what year was it?
This was 2010.
2010. Okay. So I always love hearing about people's journeys before like social media was a big thing.
Yeah.
And so
I
how did
hated
you go
social
about
media.
that? Like, how did you go about, yeah, like, how did you go about like finding that information? Because now it's real easy because social media makes it all really available. Back then, like, whenever I
Yeah.
graduated high school in 2008, trying to get into the gym, it was like all you had were like Flex magazine and
That's it.
maybe like a crazy YouTube video.
Yeah, that was it. It was Flex Magazine, YouTube videos, and who else? Like people in the gym. Like I would just talk to folks in the gym, and I feel like
Yeah.
I had confidence in doing that since I worked there. But yeah, I would just ask for, hey, like what are you doing? What are you taking? And the guys who were bigger and seemed like they knew what they were doing. So yeah, that was it. It was
Yeah.
Flex. I've done so many Flex plans in that first like couple of years, probably from 2010 to 2012. It was like, oh, Jay Cutler does this. I'm gonna do this, and oh,
Hmm.
Chris Gethin does this. Sick. Like bodybuilding.com was my best friend.
Yeah.
So whatever supplements people were taking, I tried testosterone for like a week and a half and was like, I don't want to prick myself. This is dumb. And I'm hiding it from my wife. This is stupid. So that didn't last very
Yeah.
long. But yeah. It was just listening to whatever anybody who seemed like they knew what they were talking about said.
Yeah. So
Which
you cycled on to testosterone for a week?
actually it wasn't a week. I would say it's probably longer than that. I was exaggerating a little bit. It was probably like a month. And then I
Yeah.
got sick of it. I just got sick of like injecting myself every Monday.
But still, that's a short amount. And was there any like post cycle? I've done like maybe the what is it, pills that you can take to do a
Oh, like
little
the
bit of
anabolic
the,
pills, like D-ball or something.
yes. And so like the post cycle was important, was something that they stress is important. Like you don't want to just come
I
on
was
and
an
come off.
idiot.
And I
I
know some
didn't.
dudes.
No, I
Yeah.
was an idiot. I didn't do anything post, pre. I didn't check any levels. I was an idiot. I was just literally just like trying to get bigger. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
testosterone helps. All right, let's do it. And so I ordered some syringes, and this guy was able to get testosterone. He got me a vial, and I was like, dude, magic serum. Let's go. About to get yoked and
Yeah.
yucky. And yeah, and it's crazy because even in that short time, it was like I felt amazing, absolutely amazing. But there was just conflict there, and at that time,
Mm.
I was like following Jesus more closely and getting into that, and like I was reading my Bible and stuff like that. So I think that part also just kind of there was too much morally wrong for me. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that nobody should do it or it's wrong for everyone, but for me it was a no go. Just like weed, it was a no go. So yeah, but I listened to whoever, man, I did, and it got. I think it created a lot of issues, honestly, for me. While it got me in great shape mentally, like my relationship with food, my relationship with my own body, my expectations of myself, like my approach to health and fitness overall, what was at the center of it, what was most important to me, that got real off because again, nobody I was talking to was coming from a Christ-centered biblical place. They were just coming straight from the concept of let's get you looking a freaking amazing. Let's get some bolder shoulders,
Yeah.
straight, solid abs, bigger arms, like all of that. And that is so, it's so vain. You know what I mean? Like that you can't,
Yeah.
there's no spiritual benefit to any of that.
Yeah.
And so it's essentially do whatever it takes to look like this, X picture,
Hmm.
right? So that, while physically it worked, mentally and spiritually it was terrible for me.
Yeah. And so how was that like the I guess gaining of confidence and everything like as you were getting, more jacked, less fat. And so how was that emotional transition for you? Like was it something you enjoyed?
I enjoyed it because I felt more in control. Like I felt
Mm.
like I was doing something about where I was, and I think I wanted to not be where I was so badly that even the suffering of getting where I wanted to go was pleasurable to me.
Yeah. And that makes sense.
It's
But
almost
it's
like it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger's statement of pain causes growth, growth is what I want, therefore for me pain is pleasure. That's what it was for me. Um
mhm.
all the pain, all the suffering, feeling hungry, just keeping a track of everything, eating foods that were maybe not as every element that somebody would say, this is why I can't be consistent and this is why it's not sustainable. For me, it was like the harder it is, the faster this is getting me where I want to go. Um,
Yeah.
so again, terrible relationship with food when you're approaching it that way. Terrible approach, terrible relationship with life at that
Yeah.
point. But I don't think that was all wrong in the sense that
Yeah.
if you are if you're going to do something, you truly do have to be all in. I just think for me, I needed to redefine what all in meant. Like some people say, I'm all or nothing, so I can't stick with it, and I'm like, being all or nothing is not wrong. I
Yeah.
would, in fact, God was like, I'd rather you be hot or cold. Like, be all or nothing.
Hmm.
Let your yes be yes
Yeah.
or your no be no. Like, don't do the
Hmm.
middle thing. So I would actually prefer you be all or nothing, but I would rather you define all by my standards than the world's standards or your own standards. Um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I had to redefine what all meant. That's all.
And you've done a great job of explaining that in like most of your Instagram content is the biblical connection of the gym and the Christian walk in life because it's
Yeah.
such a similar walk. Like it's so relatable. All the things you experience in the gym, like having to realize the things that are painful and somewhat unpleasurable do wind up being the beneficial thing. Like you know, having to discipline yourself to eat a certain way is going to lead to a better physical look. In the same way that in your Christian walk, limiting what or being disciplined to not do certain things is going to benefit your relationships. It's going to benefit your emotional and spiritual health. And so, like,
100%.
the connection of seeing that what you're taking out here and the discipline you've shown yourself that you can apply over here is just as beneficial
Yeah.
in your Christian walk.
Yep. Yeah,
And
absolutely. I
so I
mean,
love
because
that.
yeah. I think the biggest benefit. How do I say this? The foundation of this lifestyle when you're in Christ and doing it for His glory is that everything that you're doing is essentially unto Him. So the takeaway of maybe overindulging, or the removing the ice cream every night, or emotional eating, or being lazy, or whatever it is. Of course it translates into other parts of your life, because they're stemming essentially from the same place, which is your commitment to him. And so a lot of that comes from placing this part of your life and the habits that you have under the umbrella of Christ, like you have for all the other areas of your life, rather than keeping it separate. And so, yeah, now when I go to the gym and I do the extra rep and I felt like I couldn't, but I did it, yes, that translates now into other areas of my life as well, too, because I'm like, wow, I proved that me feeling like I can't do something isn't actually always accurate. In fact, now I'm challenging myself by allowing myself to be in a setting of, or a situation where there's suffering, where there's challenge, where there's trial, on purpose, right, in a safe setting. I'm allowing myself to practice trusting the Lord more, and leaning on his strength, right, in those very real moments where I don't feel like waking up in the morning to go to the gym. It's like, yeah, well, but who have I committed? That's where it matters, who you've committed this thing to. Have you committed it to the scale? Have you committed it to your own image? Have you committed it to, being accepted by others because you're swole? Or have you truly actually committed this to God? Because if this is actually something that between you and God, I'm gonna get up, because I don't, that's accountability for me. I don't want to let God down. And like, if I tell him I'm gonna do something, I will let myself down. Like, I will, I'll tell myself I'm gonna do it on Monday and not do it on Monday. But
Yeah.
if I tell God I'm gonna do something, there's a bit more of a cost for me,
Hmm.
emotionally, mentally, spiritually, to then say, I don't feel like it this morning. You know what I mean? Like, so then, yes. So then I think it's through that, then these actions start to show up in other parts of your life as well, too, because now they're committed to Him. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And so Fit Church United, like how did all of that, I guess that was an outgrowth of having been at Bally's. And so
Yeah.
was that, and then you said you had the dance studio. Was Fit Church initially a way to combine like that love of fitness and the desire to start a business, or
Oh,
how did
yeah.
that get started?
So for a few years after I started, because again, when I started coaching, I had already grown in the Lord a lot, and I wanted to keep serving Him. That's why I started doing
Hmm.
coaching. So I only continued to grow more and more in terms of my faith, and I had really gotten heavily into like evangelism, and started a young adult ministry called Streetlight Christian Project. And so we were praying for people and serving the homeless and doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, this is what I see in Scripture. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm missing a lot of, like the actually seeing people going out and sharing the gospel and doing certain things. So I'm in, Walmart parking lots and ringing on doorbells and whatnot, just trying to share this good news with people. And I'm thinking of creative ways to do that. I started a YouTube channel for them for a while, and we did like, I'd ask people like, what do you believe about Jesus? And, stuff like, I'd ask my friends, why did you come to Jesus? And so I was just looking for ways to share the gospel, and I had a crew of folks that were down for that as well too. And so when I started training, I realized it was taking me away from that, and I really wanted to be able to commit fully to what I thought in my mind was the most important form of ministry, which I do believe that sharing the gospel is that's the Great Commission, right?
Yeah.
Everything ultimately should be leading to that, but in my mind, I didn't realize that ministry looked other ways. Like, ministry simply means relief, right? So I didn't realize you could provide relief in other ways that glorified God and pointing people towards Him. Um, I guess I knew that in the back of my mind, but for me, I didn't see how that applied. And so I started working at this gym, and it's pulling me away. I'm helping Jan getting into her jeans, and I'm doing some real, like, to me it was kind of like I'm serving people, but this is really kind of carnal and fleshly. And then you heard my story, so I'm like, this is really like, I don't know. I'd rather do something that's actually directly for God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus a roundabout approach to serving God. In my mind, that's what that was. And so I prayed for a couple of years, man. Like, God, give me an opportunity to serve you, and because I have a family, make a living doing it. At the time, we only had my
Yeah.
son, but give me an opportunity to do that. Praying and praying and praying, man. And eventually, after my first year of coaching, I actually left One Life and to do full time ministry. Well, that didn't last very long because bills are real, and I didn't have I didn't have a degree in anything, a church that was ready to take me on, none of that, right? Like I'm just like, I'm
Hmm.
gonna do full-time ministry. So I ended up back in a studio, and I went back to training. But eventually, so 2015, shortly before I started what was called Freedom Fitness Elite, I was reading the Bible. I'm reading about Moses, and there was a footnotes in the Bible, and I don't know how accurate it is or not, but it was saying that sometimes what shepherds would do with their staffs, because they spend a lot of time out there by themselves. David talks about this as well too. Just playing music to God, and whatever it is. So Moses, same thing. He was a shepherd before he got called to do anything for Israel. So he's got the staff, and I guess what they would have certain milestones take place in their life. They would mark on their staff to signify things that had happened. Right? Maybe
Oh,
God delivered them from the lion, or whatever it is, things that David talked about with Goliath, right? Like you got these moments that it's like, whoa, I should not have overcome that. I just beat a
yeah.
bear. Like I'm marking that down. Or my son was just born. I'm marking that down. Or something happened.
Yeah.
I met with God, heard from God. I'm marking that down. And so I envision this staff with all these different markings and engravings and things, right? That he's also using to comfort, or my rod and thy staff, they comfort me, right? So he's using this for the
Mm.
for the sheep to correct and guide and whatnot, whatever it is. He's using it for his occupation, which is shepherding. Well, God then takes him and calls him to set people of Israel free from Egypt, but he's using this staff. He asks him, what's in your hand? As Moses is kind of
Mm.
talking about what he can't do and whatnot, and what's in your hand. And so, sure enough, he has his staff. He tells him in one situation to throw that staff down. God turns it into a serpent. Moses could have
Mm.
never done that. With something that symbolizes his occupation as a shepherd, which is not something that maybe he would see as directly serving God, he takes this and he uses it to swallow up two other serpents to show Pharaoh that God truly is above all things and all people. And so then he uses again, and he has him raise up the staff, and the Red Sea splits in two, and he raises it up again, and it crumbles back down on the army of Egypt. So God is using this staff, this thing that symbolizes his occupation, that also included the markings and the situations of his life story and all the things that God had taken him through and delivered him from, and done with him. He asked him, throw
Yeah.
this down, live this up, use this thing, and then through this symbol, I'm going to do my works. And so that just blew my mind, because I'm like, whoa, like what if personal training is my staff? What if my clipboard
Mm.
essentially is my staff? And God is saying, throw it down, and I'm going to make it something for my people. I'm going to make it something to help my people get free. Whoa. So I'm like, shoot. So I started hosting fitness classes at my church shortly. I talked to my pastor. I'm like, I want to I want to host a workout on the weekends, Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. I want to host a workout. It's going to be completely for free. Anybody can come. They can bring friends, family, coworkers, doesn't matter. And that thing blew up, man. It was amazing. And so I've been hosting free fitness classes and whatnot in churches since then, man. It's been, what, I don't know, doing math here, 13 years. I don't know. No, 9 years. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while of doing that, and then it turned into workshops and whatnot. And that's largely where the book came from, is because I wanted to connect with more churches and get ministry
Mm.
started and do more workshop teaching people, um, just the significance of health and fitness. I didn't totally see all the biblical connections by that point, but I knew that I was supposed to take my knowledge of health and fitness and give it to the church and help people in the church. It wasn't
Yeah.
until later on, as I gradually continued in this, that God really started showing me the biblical connections, and what I talk about in my book, Fit Church. I got that later on, but trying to get into the churches, and I realized I was getting a lot of pushback. Like I was being treated as um, a wolf in sheep's clothing. I was being treated
Mm.
as though I was presenting something that was irrelevant to the church and pretty insignificant to their church and their congregation. And that really just, I think it sparked a flame inside of me, because I was talking, my experience is that I was talking to lots of folks who believed in Jesus, that were struggling with depression and anxiety and high blood pressure and diabetes and chronic illnesses and near death experiences, heart attacks they didn't realize they had had until 3 days later, and all kinds of stuff, sugar
Wow.
addictions, food addictions, binge eating, disordered eating. I'm seeing all of that, and I'm like, you're saying health and fitness is irrelevant to your church. But on my end, your congregation is jacked up and you're not talking about it, so you're never going to know about it. So of course it's irrelevant. You're talking about all the other stuff. You are talking about porn, you are talking about sexual immorality, you are talking about alcohol and drug abuse, you are talking about relationships and finances, but you're not talking about health. So there's not a really good platform for anybody to really talk about the fact that they have body dysmorphia, and like that's keeping them from being social, which is obviously going to keep them from witnessing to people. So like, you know, like it's kind of relevant to the church and the mission overall. If this person feels trapped in their own body, or they are guilty and feeling shame every day because of their eating habits and what they look like and what they've done to themselves, they are not being the light of the world that they are called to be. They're not being the salt of the earth. They're not helping people the way that they should be helping people, because they are in chains and the enemy is using the fork and knife to take them out. He's using this open door. You've given the enemy a foothold and you're not doing anything about it. There's no platform in your church to do anything about it. So the enemy is laughing because they're going to Bible studies and community groups and services and worship services and all this stuff like that. But they're
Hmm.
not getting help in the terms of something that is vital, literally vital to their existence, which is their health and their relationship with health and fitness. So I was like, I gotta present the case because they don't see this. And so that's why I wrote the book for the church.
Yeah, and I love that. So first of all, the thought I've never heard that about, and I don't doubt it, but like the idea of the shepherds writing down on their staffs what the Lord has done through their lives, and it is just it sounds like it makes sense because like I mean, how else are they going to keep
How you
track of things?
journal,
They
you
don't
know what I
have
mean? Like
like yeah, they don't have a
the
journal, they
Bible
don't
is a
have an
journal,
iPhone to
essentially, you know.
yeah. And so I just love that image of like Moses about to go and part the Red Sea or something. And like he looks at his staff, and like on this staff is written the times that God has been faithful. And he's asking him to do
Come on.
something. And he can literally look and see, like, this is evidence that he has done what he said he's going to do.
Yeah.
And so if he told me to do this, like, I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to see what
Let's
happens.
go. Yeah, yeah. In faith.
And so
Oh,
I love
yeah.
that. But, and then moving on to it's, I love what you said about the church seeing you in it. I don't know. It hits my soul a little different just because they're like the church, whenever you said you went and said I need or wanted to do this for the church, and they see it as more of a wolf in sheep's clothing. And on one point I can kind of get it from like the church's perspective. They want
100%.
to, not, or they don't want to just like give money to someone who's they think might be trying to make money off their
I was
people.
asking to do it for free. I wasn't charging.
Oh wow.
That was my thing. I was saying completely for free. I don't want a dime. I just want to help.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the part. Yeah, if I was charging, yes, absolutely, I get that.
Yeah. And but like the fact that churches are so willing to put on conferences at their church and pay speakers to come and like you said talk about all of these other ways that people are not living out their faith or not living in a way that is going to benefit them from like a spiritual perspective,
Yeah,
and to say that like yeah, we're going to pay people to come and talk about this, but we think somehow this is not what people need, even though it's something that everyone deals with all the time and is
yeah,
an epidemic in our country.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
so was
mean,
there ever a turning point?
we're seeing that now. It's been years, man. I mean, I hear I've heard the analogy from quite a few folks just who are kind of watching my journey now, of, we plant a seed. Sometimes it takes years of just roots going into the soil, and you looking at the surface, it's like nothing's happening, but
Yeah.
it's just the roots are getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, which means more nutrition, which means it's more deeply embedded, which
Yeah.
means it's getting stronger, and when something does sprout up, it's going to have everything that it needs to flourish. Now we're starting to see the sprout come up over the soil,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, we are seeing some change in the people's mindset. We're seeing confidence, I think, rise up, because there's a lot of folks that feel the way that I do, but
Yeah.
don't either don't know how to articulate it. Maybe they thought they were kind of alone in this, kind of crazy, right, for feeling the way that they do and being as passionate as they are, and in regards to health in the church. So, yeah, to answer your question in short, we are seeing a turning point now, for sure. CBN, their interview on me definitely helped a lot. Being on the 700 Club, because that really just, I mean, that showed millions of people like, hey, like, we really do need to consider this part. And I think Lori Johnson did a really good job of speaking my heart on that. My pastor got on there and really just kind of highlighted the church needs this just as bad as the fitness industry needs Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, not as
Yeah.
just as bad, but you know what I mean? Like, the church has Jesus. we don't have health and fitness. Health and fitness has health and
Mm.
fitness. They don't have Jesus necessarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's what I mean by that. So, um, yeah, we're seeing that turning point, and it's a project, man. It is like folks ask me, like people tell me all the time, do they want to start fitness ministries at their churches, and they're running into that same pushback that I was of like, yeah, my pastor doesn't see that as a thing that we need to promote right now or whatever it is, and I'm like, we still got some work to do in terms of making the biblical case for this. And so I have to keep pushing this book out to more and more people, because the folks who do read it, the pastors, the leaders, the health educators, folks of significant worth and value to the industry, the fitness industry, um, and the church body, are saying, wow, like this is it. Like yeah, like I get it now. I see it now. So we're making progress, but it's taken a long time. It has.
yeah, I love it. And so, what was the process like of being on the 700 Club?
Sick. It was sick, man. I mean, I emailed them and some other folks, and it was just letting them know about the book. I did a press release, and so yeah, Lori Johnson calls me up, and she's like, "Hey, I'm the medical reporter for CBN News, and my team, kind of looked into you a bit, and like they want me to do a story on you, essentially. Like, I guess Pat Robinson was pretty pretty into health and fitness. He's gone now, but that kind of still lingers amongst the team and the crew and whatnot." And so just kind of hearing what I had written about and what I'm doing, they asked her to reach out to me. So she sent me she called me, and we talked through it for about an hour. She's asking question after question after question. She was very intrigued. And then so we set up a time, and she came to my house with camera crew and filmed me and my family doing some stuff, and went to the church, interviewed my pastor, interviewed me more there, and then it was just kind of a waiting game of them editing and having me send certain things to back up things that I had said, proof, videos, things like that to include in the story overall, and then yeah, they kept moving back the date in terms of when it was going to air, but yeah, then eventually it aired, and it was absolutely epic. They did an amazing job. It's crazy to see 4 hours of recording squashed into 4 minutes, but they literally took the
Wow.
best parts of it, and a lot of response from that. People seeing that and saying, "Okay, this is valid," and it's cool to be to consider. I don't know, to feel like maybe you are, in a sense. I can't say paving the way because I'm not the first to be a coach who is passionate about the physical well being of the church. But I think just the way God has given me to present this thing, I don't know, maybe in this such a time as this, you know what I mean? Maybe it's just resonating.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was really cool. It's really cool, man, to see that happen and to see them take it so seriously to where they said, okay, we're going to put this on the news, on TV, and broadcast it all over the world. It's like, okay, let's go. So
Yeah, right? And so, what is in Fit Church, the
yeah,
book?
so Fit Church is essentially a community, right? And that's really the movement, the mission. We want to guide as many people towards Christ and better health simultaneously as possible. So we've created some different avenues for that. One is Fit Church Ministry Program, where we equip people who want to start a fitness ministry at their church to have the workouts, the devotional, like guides and everything that they need to weekly host a fitness event for their church. Also, just with the support, and with that, also just connecting with people who already have fitness ministries, so that we can talk about how we can continue to grow them and reach more people in the community. 'Cause these fitness ministries are not just about getting Christians healthy. It's also about bringing in people who are outside of the church. It's a side door ministry.
Hmm.
People
Yeah.
who maybe would never set foot in a church, but they'll set foot in their local park and do a boot camp workout because they're trying to get snatched waist, right? They just met, but after a while, being around a bunch of Christians, hearing maybe some invitations to come out to church on Sunday at 9 o'clock, whatever it is, they come in and they realize, wow, like I'm amongst a bunch of believers and there's something about them. So, we're trying to connect with more and more people who are running fitness ministries, and then also help people who want to start them get started, and then run them. So we do that, and we have several fitness ministries running right now around the country, and then we have the Fit for Heaven program, which is kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Financial Peace University by Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's like that, but really it's meant for, you can run it as an individual, and we've had a lot of folks do it that way, but also churches can take this 12-week program. Every individual who signs up for this gets the app, has a bodyweight workout program to follow along with, biblical messaging for 84 days that just reshaping their mindset around health and fitness and teaching them on the different fundamental elements of health and fitness from a biblical perspective, a nutrition strategy that is sustainable and again biblically based as well. And so there's that. We're doing live workshops. We've got the book, the coaching program, and so yeah, there's definitely a lot of different avenues that we're working to accomplish this mission of getting the body of Christ in shape and bringing the gospel to communities around churches through fitness.
Yeah. And can you touch on the biblical nutrition? Because I've seen this on your Instagram a few times, and
Yeah,
I love hearing you talk about it. And so I just want to hear you share it with this audience.
yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of information about nutrition on the internet, as we talked about before, or earlier in this podcast. But um, over the years, I've coached for 11 years. Right, I started back in 2013, so it's been 11 years of me coaching people, and through that, you don't get to do that much coaching without continuing to be a student. You have to keep learning. You have to stay up to date with what people are hearing and learning so that you can address it, whether it's something that maybe you should be implementing and help and using to help your folks, or
Mm.
steering people away so that they don't end up in a trap, right? And
Yeah.
so with all of the information that I had, I'm like, shoot, this is even a little confusing to me. And I found that as I looked through Genesis, there's some really clear instructions. I think one of the best things that we can do if we're wondering how God intended for something to operate, right? Marriage and food and finances and
Mm.
family and all that. Go to the origin. Go to Genesis.
Yeah.
See if there's something there that you can build on, right? Or go to the Bible, period. But Genesis, shoot, that's the beginning right there. So I went there and I'm seeing Genesis 1:11 where this is the creation account. This is the process of him building everything out, and
Mm.
he speaks to the earth and vegetation sprouts forth, right? And so then go on to Genesis 1:29. And so he's telling Adam now, hey, look, all the vegetation, all of these things that with the seed in them, that those are the things that I want you to eat. Cool. Very clear instruction. Like he doesn't give Adam a whole lot of instruction, right? He's like,
Yeah.
he's telling Adam and Eve, like, you're going to multiply, you're going to subdue the earth, have dominion over it. This is what I want you to eat. Like, there's only a few things he tells them to do because there's only but so
Hmm.
much to do on the earth at that point, right? Like, we don't have, like desk jobs and cars, and like, there's only but so much you can do. So, very clear instructions. Here's what I want you to eat. And then the flood happens, right? Man falls away. They do eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. After the flood, he's telling Noah in Genesis 9:3, just like I gave you all the vegetation, I'm also going to give you the animals as well too, the creatures. So now I look at this and also having an understanding of how the body responds to food and all stuff like that, I'm thinking, wow, like in a simplified sense, if you really look at what God says, he just wanted us to eat from the earth, and then we've
Mm.
also got the animal products who are eating from the earth as well too, right?
Yeah.
Animals and then their products as well too. So now we've got milk and eggs and things like that as well too. That is the foundation of biblical nutrition. That's God. Like you can argue whatever science you want. I've got vegans that are like, no, Genesis 9:3 was after the fall. And I'm like, okay, so I want you then to go argue with God that he was wrong. He actually made a mistake and rethought his
Mm.
decision and changed it now. And like, does God do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as far as I'm concerned, when I read my Bible, Jesus was the plan before the foundations of the universe. He wasn't
Hmm.
plan
Yeah.
B when we fell. There was no plan B. God's plan A is always going to be fulfilled. That's what he
Hmm.
intended. He doesn't make mistakes. He knows the end from the beginning. So, meat is a part of it. And it was intended to be a part of it because he knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Again, the
Um,
whole omniscient thing.
right. Absolutely. Shoot, I even think about the sacrifice. Right? Cain and Abel, their whole issue is one brought an animal sacrifice, the other one brought fruits.
Hmm.
He didn't accept the
Yeah.
fruits. He said, but you know why? Because the animal more so represented who? Jesus. There was an actual
Hmm.
blood sacrifice, there was propitiation, there was atonement there in that. This represents like the salvation, the true salvation that will come before you got, you know what I mean? Like it was crazy. So I hear people arguing against this, but there are a lot of folks that are like, like this is a fresh breath of air. I can
Mm.
commit to whole food nutrition based on what God's word says, not just because I'm trying to lose fat or because my doctor
Yeah.
says I should or because so and so at fill in the blank on Instagram says so. But because God, this is what he gave to me. And the beautiful thing about this is when I look at food, I see this as an opportunity to commune with God. I really do.
Mm.
One, we were made as omnivores, right? So our bodies are able to digest and benefit from both animal and vegetables. Awesome. We have canine teeth. Excellent. I love that. But then when I look into like even just like a fruit, right? Like think about a pineapple for a second, or an apple, or an orange. The textures, the colors, the flavors, the nutritional benefits. All of that was God's vision, all of it.
Yeah.
Like I think about this time. Sometimes I'm like, everything could have like they spent a lot of time. Like Israel had manna for a hot minute, and they were like, God, give us something else. And he sent fowl from the air, right? But he created food with, and then created us with senses that would be able to appreciate the qualities that he built into the food. I can taste the difference between, like, unless you have something going on in your body, which that's a part of the fall of man, as there's sickness and stuff in the earth now. But
Mm.
there's a texture in the pineapple and a flavor in the orange, and there's a
Yeah.
feel, and so there's things that we can experience within, and I don't mean to get too like far out and like drifty in my talk here, but I believe that growing to love God more means seeing him more in everything and appreciating him more in everything. And while we can see healthy food as something that I'm supposed to do because I want to be healthy or something that's going to help me get smaller or lose weight, I see healthy food as an opportunity to commune with God, to taste his
Mm-hmm.
vision, to
Yeah.
allow him to provide for me the way that he desires as a good father to provide for his children. Um, and so knowing that he created the human body and he created food and all of that, I look at these things and say, God had a plan here. And even in the human lifestyle, there's a lifestyle that leads us to more sickness and quicker death.
Mm.
And then there's a lifestyle that leads us to health and strength and energy and potentially longer life. That also gives me an indication that God had a plan for the lifestyles that we would live, that being sedentary and eating processed foods and not sleeping at night and being dehydrated, that really wasn't a part of how he designed the human body to be treated. Just like there was a way that Solomon's temple was meant to be treated, right? Like they didn't just
Mm-hmm.
walk up in any old temple and treat it and God, not any old temple. They didn't just walk up in the temple and
Yeah.
treat it any old way. He says, your body's a
Mm-hmm.
temple of the Holy Spirit. Think about what a temple represents. He could have called it anything else, but a temple is something very special, something sacred, place where God abides in. So the foods that he created, that's a part of our honoring and reverence towards him in the temples that he's given us. So yeah,
Yeah. I love that. And thank you for sharing that.
for sure. For sure. I think it's good to simplify nutrition because it's more people just live unhealthy lifestyles, I think, because they're overwhelmed with what they should and shouldn't do. And so it's like, forget it,
Yeah.
like whatever. And then also on the other side, a lot of folks just don't see that they're missing, that's an opportunity to grow closer to the Lord. And a lot of folks, though they may not be fitness enthusiasts, there are a lot of people who truly do love Jesus with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. To the best of their knowledge and with the current perspective that they have, what they've been taught, but
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing here is opening more eyes to the fact that, hey, like this is a part of all of that. And when people grasp, wow, like there is a simple and godly way to approach nutrition that is honoring and pleasing to him, they're like, oh shoot, like this is a whole new reason for me to
Yeah.
make some vegetables instead of snacking on some chips with this meal. This is a whole new reason, a whole new perspective, one that actually matters to me because I don't necessarily care all the time about how skinny I look. I don't necessarily always care about whether or not, I'm doing the best thing for my A1C. But when somebody is truly following Jesus, they always care about what God really truly wants.
Mm-hmm.
We make mistakes and we're not all perfect, so we do forget and we get caught up in our own feelings and our own ways. But ultimately, nutrition is a part of a lifestyle. It's not like a one-time thing that happens every once in a while. It's a day-to-day thing. And so when you see it the right way, I think it liberates you to approach it in a way that then pours into you rather than being this tedious thing that you have to do or else your doctor's going to yell at you. You know?
Nice. And so, Matt, how can people get in touch with you? Like if they on an individual level and if they want to bring this to their church, how can they get in touch with you to make it happen?
Yeah, best way to contact me is just go to fitchurchunited.com, and you can go to the services tab, and there that'll show you like the ministry program and Fit for Heaven, and if you're interested in coaching or whatever it is, there's also the contact us page, which is very simple, and you can put in your information there. So yeah, fitchurchunited.com would be the best place. You can also reach out to me on Instagram. I do check my messages personally, so you can reach out to me. I'm at Fit Church United on Instagram and TikTok. So just send me a message there, and we can talk through whatever it is you'd like to talk through. And typically from there, I don't. If the conversation needs to go further, we'll get on a call, or I'll send you my number and we can text back and forth. So yeah,
Nice. I love it. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Matt.
yeah. Thank you for having me. This is really, I mean, this is fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. All right, man. Well, any message you want to leave folks with before we close?
Do it for the Lord, man. Stay temple strong.
I love it. Love it. All right. Well, have a good one, Matt.
All right. You too.